What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and you saw the title of this video. Thor Love and Thunder is a joke. Literally. And ironically enough, I do mean that literally. Thor Love and Thunder was nothing more than a complete running joke from beginning to ending. Never do you feel the stakes in this movie. Never do you get the sense of the severity of the situations that this movie places its characters in. And just when you feel like you're getting into the storyline throughout this movie, you will get smacked in the face with another barrage of jokes that reminds you not to take any of this stuff seriously, because the filmmakers didn't take this seriously. And I know this is going to sound like one of the softest things I've ever said out my mouth. This may make me sound like a snowflake, but you know what? I don't care. I felt harassed while watching this movie. I literally felt like I was being harassed for laughs while I was watching this movie, almost like there was an invisible Taika Waititi sitting right next to me, nudging me in my ribs over and over again after every joke. Did you think that one was funny? Did you hear what he said? Did you see that goat scream? Oh, did you see this? And it was just like, whoa, chill. We get it. You want to be zany and quirky and you want to have some humor in your film. I get it. But you don't have to beat us over the head until we are unconscious with these jokes. Like I said, most of which don't even land. Just to warn you all, there will be some slight spoilers in this review or in this video, but I'm not going to do a complete spoiler review breakdown for this movie because there's nothing really to spoil. What am I going to do? Tell you one of the punchlines from the 3 million jokes that are in this movie, most of which don't land? And I want you all to understand, folks, I usually don't have a problem with the humor that is in MCU movies. I know there's a lot of people out there that can't stand how many jokes and how silly some of these Marvel movies are. They want them to be more serious, and I get that. But me, I like the lightheartedness. I like the humor, usually, in these Marvel movies, but this one took it completely overboard, overkill. Now, I've seen a lot of people complain about Thor Ragnarok, which was the Thor movie, of course, that came out before this Thor movie. Personally, I really liked Thor Ragnarok. Yes, there was a lot of comedy there, but it worked better in that film than this one. Whereas, yeah, maybe you could make the argument that maybe there was a tad bit too much comedy in Ragnarok. Here, there's not an argument to be had. It's just nonstop. And it sucks because this movie could have been Marvel's most serious movie yet. This movie had so much potential. It really and truly did. I mean, when you think about the certain things that are in this movie, they really touch on some serious stuff. Cancer. The villain in this movie is the Butcher of Gods that is traveling throughout the cosmos, murdering all of the gods. That's something to take serious. That's kind of badass. But every moment that could be badass in this film was drowned out by humor. And it just really, the jokes just did such a disservice to this movie that it just made it just a complete mess. And it's not because of the storyline. The storyline was kind of tight. The movie wasn't too long, which was a good thing. Because if this movie went on for another 30 minutes, then it would have just been, oh my God, I think my head would have exploded. But if they took this movie just a tad bit more seriously, then I think it could have benefited from some extra screen time or a little bit of extra run time. because there were some parts in this movie that were just missing that should have been there. For example, the female Thor, Lady Thor, Jane Foster. I absolutely hate her character in the comic books. I hate how Marvel has gotten so lazy over the past years. And instead of creating new, cool characters, all they're doing is race swapping or gender swapping characters that we already know. So in the comics, there's a Lady Thor, a Lady Captain America, Lady Spider-Man, Lady Hulk, Lady Hawkeye, Lady Iron Man, Lady this, Lady that. It's just everyone's a woman. You understand what I'm saying? But I don't have a problem with strong female characters. Now, the defense that Marvel will try to throw out there, if you have any complaints about this movie, they'll say, oh, it must be because you hate women. That's what they always say. That's the argument they always run with. Oh, you hate women because you don't like this movie with a strong woman character. No, that's not the case. I like strong women characters. I like original characters. Being a comic book fan, especially a Marvel fan, you have to appreciate strong female characters. I was born in the 90s, at the height of X-Men's popularity. I grew up on Rogue, Storm, Jean Grey, and hell, even people like Psylocke and Jubilee. I loved strong female characters. And Marvel has so many strong female characters to work with, yet instead they're giving us these cheap rehashes of characters, of male characters that we already know and love, like Lady Thor. So I wasn't happy when I heard Lady Thor was going to be in this movie. However, I didn't mind her in this movie that much. You know, Marvel has a way of bait and switching lately. Meaning they'll have a show called Hawkeye, and you'll tune in to watch Hawkeye. But really the show will be all about the new female Hawkeye. And then they'll have a show called Loki. And you're like, yeah, man, I really want to know more about Loki and spend some more time with Loki. And then half the show is really about female Loki. And it just goes on and on. They bait and switch you. They know that these new characters that they created and just gender swapped or race swapped, they know that these characters don't have fans. They know that there's no originality to these characters. So they know no one's going to show up to watch these characters on the big screen or on Disney+. So they bait and switch. They make you think you're showing up to watch Loki, or you're showing up to watch Hawkeye. You're showing up to watch Iron Man. When in reality, you're just watching the generic versions of them. But in this movie, I don't feel like Jane Foster's Thor got too much in the way of the Thor that we know and love. I didn't feel like Thor really got sidelined in this movie. I still felt like he was the main character. In fact, I was like sitting here in a weird way wanting more of Jane Foster's Thor. And hear me out here. I'm not saying, oh my God, her character was really cool or great, but if you're going to put her in the movie, at least set her up. They didn't do that. They didn't even take the time out of their day to show you her becoming the female Thor, which shows you they don't care about these characters. It's only about virtue signaling. Hey, here's strong female Thor, women power. Okay, cool. How come you didn't show us her getting her powers? So I felt like this movie could just be a tad bit longer to show us Lady Thor becoming Lady Thor and how she learns to deal with those powers. But it doesn't. It just implies that maybe the hammer's going to work for her. And then later on in the movie, she's just Lady Thor here. And I felt like that was kind of lame. Personally, I love origin stories. I love seeing a character get new powers and learning how to deal with those powers. This movie, there's none of that. So they put Lady Thor in it for almost no reason because they don't even commit to showing you how she became Lady Thor. Now, if it was up to me, she wouldn't even be in this movie. But if you're going to put her in there, at least put her in there and show us how she got here and how she got these powers. This movie didn't do that at all. As far as Valkyrie goes, oh man. I didn't mind Valkyrie as much in Thor Ragnarok, but here she's just this miserable character who's only on screen to just sit there and give scowls or to just sit there and look around. Like, this character was literally forced into this film just to show you that she bends the gender norms. Like, Valkyrie is now the king, not the queen. She's the king. And there's even scenes with her in like a jersey that says Kings. And the only reason she's in this movie is so they can call her king. Over and over again. King Valkyrie. King, king, king. She does literally nothing in this movie at all. Basically nothing at all. There's no reason for her to be in this movie other than, hey, we're Disney, and guess what? We have a character that's lesbian, and she refers to herself as a king. She's not a queen, she's a king. And that's the only reason she's in the movie. And if you're going to do that, it's cringy, it's woke, it's nonsense. But if you're going to do it, at least make her character likable and cool. But they don't. They don't go out of their way to try to make you connect with these characters in the least bit. They're all just here to fill space before you get the next joke thrown at you. Literally, there's some goats in this movie, screaming goats, that probably do more than Valkyrie. And they're in this movie throughout the entire movie. And I thought that was sickening. It was so sickening. And I get it that Taika Waititi is this quirky filmmaker. But sometimes quirky filmmakers, when they get that name for themselves, they start going out of their way to be quirky. Like with Thor Ragnarok, it felt genuine. In this movie, there was some genuineness to some of the quirkiness that was going on in the movie, but a lot of it felt forced. Like, hey, yeah, I know I have the reputation for being the funny, quirky guy in Hollywood. Let me make sure to over-quirkify and funify this movie. You understand what I'm saying? To the point where it was like, man, this is kind of forced. Where this movie shines, though, is in the visuals. Don't get me wrong, there's some crappy CGI, and I'm so tired of Marvel being so lazy that there's no set pieces anymore. Thor could be so awesome if they did more on-location shooting. Like, I want to see Thor in front of a waterfall and big mountains and stuff like that. Like, you know, like a Viking. But instead, it's just Chris Hemsworth standing in front of a green screen for 2 hours. Yet this movie did provide some beautiful, fantastical visuals. And the strong parts of this film line up with the good parts of Thor Ragnarok to me. The best part of Thor Ragnarok and this movie, in my opinion, these are the most Kirby-esque Marvel movies that we've seen so far. Jack Kirby, the artist. These movies have interesting color palettes. They're really colorful, vibrant, and it feels like something that's hopping out of a comic book that Jack Kirby drew. And I mean that by saying not that, oh man, this movie's so great, but this movie does provide some visuals that just makes you feel like an old comic book. And that's where this movie shines. However, that's about it. That's one of the only things that I could pinpoint and be like, that is great. I really like that about this movie. That's really about it, because everything else, it can't be taken seriously enough to almost even criticize. It's hard for me to review this movie because what am I even criticizing other than jokes upon jokes upon jokes? This movie could have had one of the most badass, cool, evil, dark villains that the MCU has seen yet. But instead, they wasted Christian Bale, in my opinion. This movie could have been so epic. Like Thor, he is a badass character. Especially now that he's more powerful. I want to see him just be serious with these powers for just a moment to get into a serious battle with this God Butcher. But instead, even the final battle is just a joke. And it's like, Thor in the movies and Thor in the comics, they're two separate characters. Thor in the MCU movies now, he's a dude bro. He's nothing more than a dude bro. And I kind of like it to a certain extent. Like, I felt like we had a better balance of it in Infinity War. You know, I don't want a Thor movie that takes itself too seriously, because then it becomes corny. But I don't want a Thor movie that's just a complete joke. I feel like Thor did need a little bit of a comedic presence added to him in order for him to really work on the big screen. I feel like Chris Hemsworth is a great Thor. But when you take it overboard, it just makes this character into comedic relief. Thor is nothing more than like comedic relief at this point. And that's not how he should be. Yeah, he should have some funny moments, those fish out of water moments, those moments where what he says, it just comes off crazy because he had a different upbringing. But in these moments when you see the thunder and the lightning come out of his eyes, and it's just, yeah, finally Thor's going to be this badass god of thunder. But then no, you can't take it seriously. And this movie, it could have been, like I said earlier, it could have been Marvel's most serious movie. They touched on some serious things here. Unfortunately, you could never take those things seriously. If we could see Thor at the power level he is now in Thor Ragnarok or in Thor Love and Thunder, being serious, having a serious fight with this God Butcher, it would be completely epic. I really liked how this movie was so colorful, yet God Butcher was just so dark and just void of any color. And how when Thor and his team, they show up to fight him, everything just goes black and white. Like there were certain portions of this movie that just could have worked so much had this movie just taken itself a little bit more seriously. Taika Waititi got in his own way over and over again, just trying to quirky up this film just a little too much. Not even a little too much. Way too much. Like extremely too much. And by far, my favorite part of the film and my least favorite part of the film are the same part of the film, if that makes sense. Warning, there's a little spoilers here. Eventually on this journey that they're going on, Thor, Valkyrie, Korg, Lady Thor, they go to find Zeus and all of these other gods. And I really liked that scene because, once again, it felt Kirby-esque. You see all this gold, you see all of these bright characters, these different creatures and aliens, and I really dug the look of it. But then, of course, Zeus was turned into another joke. A complete wasted opportunity. Zeus should have been this menacing, and I don't mean menacing in a bad way necessarily, but he should have been someone that you could legit be afraid of, that would feel powerful. You know, it's Zeus. But no, once again, complete joke. In fact, Zeus was more of a joke than any of the other complete jokes that were in this film. And I felt like that not only did a disservice to this story, but it's going to do a disservice to all types of stories going forward. This movie played with some things in the Marvel Universe and made some things in the Marvel Universe a joke. So going forward, if they ever try to go back here and touch on these type of themes again, you're not going to take it as seriously. So not only did this movie manage to turn itself into a complete joke, it managed to turn other things in the Marvel Universe into a complete joke. And I would only assume they're going to be taken as a complete joke moving forward. Talking about moving forward, the reason a lot of people get hyped for MCU movies is because the MCU movie, just as much as it is a movie on its own, it's often a movie setting up something else. Like, people are more excited about what this movie is going to set up than what this movie is going to be. Thor: Love and Thunder doesn't set up much. It doesn't let you know what direction the MCU is going in. Although it kind of gives you a glimpse at what direction Thor is going in, and it's not a good direction. In fact, Taika Waititi took it upon himself to create an original character for Thor: Love and Thunder. That character is Love. I believe it's Love. A new character that's going to be Thor's daughter moving forward, basically. You see, this movie, spoiler alert, they kill off Lady Thor. And I'll be honest with you all, there were 2 points in this movie where I audibly got excited. And that was when Valkyrie got stabbed. I was like, yes. I accidentally said it out loud in the movie theater. I was like, yes. I was like, okay, Valkyrie's gone. We don't have to sit here and watch her scowl in the background in a business suit in any of our other Marvel movies coming forward. Yes. Turns out she lived. And then there was another point, and that was when Lady Thor dies. And literally, out loud, on accident, I said, well, at least this means she won't be in any more Marvel movies. And the person I was at the movies with had to shush me. And I'm not a talker at the movies at all, but it accidentally came out. It was the only sense of relief that I got from this movie after being constantly harassed for laughter. So not only did they not properly set up female Thor, they already killed her off in one movie. And she didn't have too much to do. And her storyline could have been serious. And maybe I could have, for the first time, connected with this character. But I didn't. And it's weird because I'll have to compare it to something I watched recently. When I watched the scene with Lady Thor dying, I felt no emotion other than excitement, other than being literally happy. Because this movie never made you connect with the characters. You're connected to Thor because you've been connected to Thor for years now. But it doesn't make you connect with Valkyrie anymore. In fact, it made me disconnect from Valkyrie. And there was a plot line there that almost reached out to me and made me want to kind of care about Lady Thor. But because of all the jokes, because we didn't see her character properly set up, and it just shows you that the filmmakers didn't even care about her being in this movie other than to virtue signal and to just check the woke, boxes that they have to in Hollywood. But I just never cared when she died, not in the least bit. And then I go to Stranger Things Season 4. A character, spoiler alert for Stranger Things, a character dies in Stranger Things Season 4 that literally made me cry multiple times. It made me cry, tears running down my face, watching Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2. Watching this movie, when Lady Thor died, I was like, well, at least she's not going to be in any more movies. Great. But you know what? It's not such a good thing. Because Taika Waititi set up that Thor has now found his way in life. And his way in life is going to be raising someone else's kid who is already overpowered, already has the ability to carry Thor's hammer and all of that. And this is an original character. So going forward, if you're excited about future Thor movies, just know they will be a bait and switch, and you will be showing up to watch Thor's new daughter that was created on the spot by Taika Waititi for no reason. And that really pisses me off. Because Taika, you did nothing with this movie but joke. You didn't set up anything in this movie. You went nowhere with this movie. And then at the end, you leave us with nonsense that's going to mess up future Thor movies going forward. At the end of this movie, once the Lady Thor died, I was like, you know what? This movie was a complete joke. But at the very least, maybe Thor's kind of on the right track here. You understand what I'm saying? Like, maybe the next Thor movie might be good. I'm excited to see what might happen to Thor next, but now no. Because he had to set up this thing about Thor having this daughter. What? Why was that needed, Taika? You did nothing in your film and now you're going to ruin more films going forward? And honestly, I don't know if Taika Waititi's going to be hired to do another Thor movie after this one. Knowing Disney, they'll probably double down, but this movie was just a joke. It was a joke. And even critics who usually shill for Marvel are calling it out. It's gotten that bad. But all in all, man, I really don't know how to rate this movie. I want to give it like a 4 or 5 out of 10. And that's just simply because of some of the visuals. And some of the CGI was bad here. But I feel like this is a Marvel movie that I would put on my TV. I would put it on mute so I don't have to hear any of the cringy dialogue. And then I would sit down and read comic books. And then every now and then, between flipping pages, I would look up and catch a nice little scene of Thor, raising his hammer with electricity coming out of his eyes, or a Viking ship flying through space on a rainbow, something like that. But sitting down to watch this movie again for its storyline is completely pointless. This movie is not Marvel's worst movie, but this may just be Marvel's most forgettable movie yet. I want to know your thoughts about this movie, though, down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all on the next video.